done screen time for our children and even for ourselves. Let's face it, we need a little break, right? So it's like, here's the screens, but is it just harmless fun for our children? Does it have any long term effects or it's really nothing? And what are some alternative indoor and outdoor activities that we could engage as instead of giving them screens? And finally, and most importantly, we know screens and technology is not going anywhere. So, how do we build a good relationship, develop healthy screen habits for our children so it doesn't have any long term effects on their mental health? Because just this week, I saw on the news that the US Surgeon General, they're saying screen time is becoming a national pandemic. And so this has to be addressed. And this is the work that Smart Families is doing so amazingly well. And I'm so excited. I'm sure you can tell I am so excited to have Mrs. Sally Waterfield here today from Smart Family. So if you have any questions at all for Mrs. Sally, please put them in the chat and we will answer. So, Miss Sally, welcome so much to
Thank
our
you.
show today. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and then about Smart Families and what is Smart Families? What's going on?
Yes, amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me today. I was excited because this is my first ever YouTube live, and so I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm so trendy now. um, So, yes, I'm Sally, originally from England, now living in Houston, Texas. And I am a mom. I have three kiddos. My children are 15, 14, there's two boys, and then my daughter is 11. And
Oh.
so, this conversation is so relevant, not just professionally, but also like this is my personal life too.
Mhm. Yes.
And I was a teacher in the classroom for about 16 years before I did a career change over to work for Smart Families. And
Wow.
really, what kind of helped me guide like into this new career was all of these conversations that I was having within my own classroom. And so
Mhm.
I had noticed some interesting changes happening with my students, emotional regulation. Something would happen that I thought would be a little tiny incident and it would blow up into this huge, big emotional kind of mountain. And just focus, attention. And this was pre COVID. I know a lot of people, when everybody went on screens, everybody said, oh, it was because of COVID. But, like educators were seeing this a long time before that. And not only was I seeing this with the students, but the students' parents were coming to me and they were saying, well, Mrs. Waterfield, please, can you tell us what to do? Because they listen to you and they don't listen to me. And I was like, one interesting shift in authority that parents
Mhm.
felt so disempowered around screens that they were coming to schools to ask for guidance. And so
Mm.
I started to research, and I had an amazing in service PD at my school from a lady called Dr. Crystal Collier, who is a like a brain researcher. And she came and taught me about the brain. And in that moment, I realized like this was the missing piece. We weren't talking about the brain and how screens were impacting the brain. And so I started doing a big deep dive. I was so interested to learn everything I could learn about the brain. And then fortunately got introduced to Brian Kuzma, who is the founder of Smart Families. And through my connection with him, I was able to, oh,
I'm so sorry. We got kicked out. I have no idea what happened, but we're back on.
I think, and can you hear me okay? The
Yes,
volume
I
has
can.
changed, but,
It's perfect.
oh, okay, perfect. Um, So I was just talking like nonstop, which is what I do. So I didn't even know that we'd been kicked off. So I
Oh,
have no
sorry.
idea where I finished talking. So I'll go back a little bit and then we'll see what happens.
Yes. You were talking about the parents coming to you, and that's an amazing, amazing change in
Yes.
authority.
And yeah, so the parents were coming to me and they were asking me, me questions, like asking me how to help them make these decisions within their own homes when it came to screens and technology. And just such an interesting shift for me.
Mhm.
God created our families. parents have authority within their family, yet these parents were really feeling so disempowered and did not feel like they had any authority.
Mm.
And so I started to learn about the brain. I started to learn about the neuroscience, like what is happening to our children's brains when they're on screens, when they're on YouTube
Mhm.
shorts, when they're
Mhm.
watching TikTok videos, when they're playing video games. Um, and during this time, I got introduced to a man by the name of Brian Kuzma, who's one of the co-founders of Smart Families.
Mhm.
And
Oh.
he had a vision for helping to create communities to help parents navigate this digital landscape, which everybody
Mhm.
just felt like we don't know what's going on. Children are changing, like our homes are changing. Like what
Mm.
can we do?
Mm.
And so we formed Smart Families. And initially, we were a simple pledge. So, Brian and Jennifer Kuzma, our founders, went to their children's school because they have 3 children. And when their eldest was in 4th grade, he came home and said that question, when am
Yep.
I getting a smartphone?
All my friends have it.
Yes, all my friends have it. And if you don't give one to me, then I'm going to be the only one that doesn't have this device.
Yep.
But Brian and Jennifer actually decided rather than just accept what they were hearing from their child, they went to the school, to their son's parents, like friends' parents, and asked, is everybody else okay with getting their child a smartphone at this age? And amazingly, they found that actually they were not the minority group, they were the
Mhm.
majority group. And
Mhm.
they found so many other parents who said, no, actually, we don't want to give our child a smartphone. What are we giving them access to by handing over this device that has
Mhm.
access to the internet? And so it began as a pledge at one school here in Houston. And now
Wow.
we've grown that into a very robust program. And
Wow.
so at Smart Families, what we do is we partner with a school. Soon we're going to be partnering with parishes as well. That's going to be something we'll be launching at a later date. But we partner with a school and we help provide neuroscience education and faith based education around how parents can navigate the digital landscape when they're raising their children or adolescents. We go and saturate the whole community, which means we
Mhm.
go and speak to the teachers during teacher PD. We speak to the parents. My favorite, we go straight to the students and we tell them
Yes.
about their brains. We teach
Mhm.
them about how this technology can impact the way their brain's developing. And we promote 4 norms. So here at Smart Families, research back norms, we asked parents to delay smartphones until high school here in the US or
Mhm.
age kind of 14.
Mhm.
Um, delay social media till at least 16. And let me tell you, I have a 15-year-old about to turn 16. I am not ready. We're still not ready. I mean, that doesn't have to be this like, okay, you're 16, here you go. Then we also have phone-free campuses. So these
Mhm.
devices do not need to be in school because of
Mhm.
distractions. And then finally, all underneath this beautiful umbrella of prioritize your family and know what your family values are. And
Yes.
so this has kind of been an incredible growth for us. So from that one school, we grew into 18 schools.
Oh
In our
my
second year, we
goodness.
were in 46 schools. We've just finished in 113 schools. And next year,
Wow.
we have, I think, about 160 schools that we're partnering with. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Praise
it's
God. And
just
when did Smart Family start? What year was this that you started with that one school?
so we've just completed the end of our third year. So
Wow.
we're still a relatively new nonprofit.
Wow.
We have been learning a lot, and I think one of my favorite kind of pieces to share that kind of qualifies us to have these conversations and be invited to be on people's podcasts is this past year. Our student touch point, and so these are students who have heard our Smart Families messaging, is 45,000 students. So, and even for me, and I think about our early days when we were like in a little office, like our executive director was working from a baby changing table. We were very humble beginnings. And then to see the impact that we're having and the
Oh
families who
my
we're,
gosh.
just helping and the conversations that we're having, it really is just so incredible to see this
I
movement happening.
I love it. And I love, and I believe it's grown so quickly in 3 years because obviously this pandemic, this screen pandemic is everywhere. And like
Yes.
you said earlier, parents feel like it's out of their control almost. It's almost as if, well, yeah, I can't really help it. Like all my kids' friends are doing it, right? So I am so glad. So how can a school, a parents, how can people who want to be part of Smart Families, how can they be part of this wonderful program that you're running for families? And thank you so much for doing it. And before you answer that question, I just want to say that even this week, I go to the stores, and I think after being introduced to smart families, I'm like my eye is opening more to this because I go to the stores. Obviously, with my own four kids, I've seen the effects of screens on them, but I go to the stores and now I'm seeing more and more how children are just on their screens in the stores, and I'm like,
Yeah.
children used to love stores. Can I get this? Can I get that? Like, no, you cannot. No, you're not buying this. But now it's like just give them the screens. And this Wednesday, I went to the store and two boys, two brothers were sitting on the table. Both of them had their own iPads, they had their own headsets, and they were sitting on a display table waiting for their parents to finish shopping. And I was like, and I kind of lingered around because I was trying to kind of wait for their parents to come and tell them, what are you doing? But I was like, okay, you're a crazy woman. Just go.
Yeah.
So
Well,
how can, because I feel like once parents know what it's doing to their children's brain, then we are more serious and we are more aggressive and we want to
yeah.
deal with it more. But because most parents don't know, and that's what Smart Families is doing, is providing parents with the opportunity to know how it's affecting their brains. I've seen some of your videos. It's amazing. It's given me so much more grips and confidence in really managing screens in my home. So please tell us how people can join if they want to be, if they're interested. And I hope they
Yeah. And
are.
just and before I get to that point, I just wanted to go back to something that you said because I am very transparent with my journey with my own children.
Mhm.
I never stand here and proclaim to be this perfect parent who got everything right because my truth is that I actually got a lot wrong.
Yeah.
When my eldest was 11 and he was going, so they attended the school where I was teaching. And
Mhm.
when he was 11, he was going off to junior high, which meant that he was not going to be at my school anymore.
Mhm.
I wanted to know what time he was getting home. I wanted to know what time he was going to be arriving in. If he needed me, I gave him a smartphone. I
Mhm.
didn't know any different. I handed him over a smartphone, all access to the internet. And my testimony is some really terrible things happened with him having a smartphone. And those things are things I can never take away. And with my subsequent children, we've had to make different changes. And younger
Mhm.
children are like, well, that's not fair. They got one when they were 11. Like this, I have this, these are the conversations I have all the time.
Yeah.
But the reality is, when you know more, we can do better.
Yes.
And the more I started to learn, the more I realized I had to change either some of my own thinking or just and it's a difficult conversation because you're
Mhm.
actually having to learn things that are stealing children's innocence. And it's so hard to hear the statistics about the age that, children are being stumbling upon like pornography. Like nobody wants to hear those things and
Mhm.
look at your sweet children. And but these are difficult conversations that we have to have. And the reason why we do it through this lens of neuroscience is because the neuroscience is very non-threatening.
Mhm.
We are not here to point fingers and say,
Mm-mm.
oh, I can't believe you did. Like,
Mm-mm.
not at all. We are here to walk alongside people and lock shields with people and say, we want to help you, and if something that happened in my family can help it to not happen in your family, then I want to be open and honest and share that with you all. So
Mhm.
I always tell a lot of stories. And yeah, it wasn't always the most popular thing when I started working for Smart Families for my children because, like I always say, parents, we are the CEOs of our family, which is the chief example officers. They are watching and they are looking
They're
to see what we're
watching.
doing. And so they're going to, because of like things like mirror neurons, they're going to copy what they see other people doing. And
Mhm.
if you're using your phone in a certain way, those kiddos are the first ones to call out the hypocrisy of them being told that they can't do something. So, anyway, a little bit of a side note. But to your point about being in the store and seeing people, I've got to a point now where I've had this conversation with my own children for such a long time that we've just got back from vacation. And when we're in the airport, my kids will like see other children and they'll say, Mom, smart
Look.
families.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they see
Yeah.
it now.
Yeah. do you guys have, and this is probably off topic, but do you have something that we could just like hand to people like at the airport, at the store, just like, hey, like just take this, because otherwise they'll think you're crazy, like just approaching people and like invading their space and telling them to take the smartphones from their families, like what are you talking about? But anyway, this is like, it's so, I want to do so much for the families, and it's like, it's just, but I'm glad Smart Families is here, so I'll listen.
We
Let's listen
are.
to
And
you.
we
Yes.
do have these little stickers that we've made that during our presentations we give them to the students, and
Okay.
we say, you can maybe give one of these stickers out, and on the back they
Good.
have little comments, just little pointers. I mean, we've even had parents say, I've put these stickers next to my steering wheel to, like to help me stay off my phone if I'm trying to
Mhm.
drive. And so we have these little gentle nudges just to say,
Okay.
hey, like, like a moment on the screen is a moment that we're losing connection. And just
Yeah.
really like these truths, this just to help people reorientate
Mm.
to like spend time and look at our children. And I'm also at grad school to become a clinical mental health counselor because I really want to kind of elevate, because the phones is the phones, like, but we can peel it all back. And really what we're losing is attachment, and when
Yeah.
a child is trying to have a conversation with a parent, and do you know what? I get it. Like my lifeline feels like it's on my phone. I get my work emails, people communicate with me. We have family overseas, like FaceTime. Like there's so much that goes on in
Yeah.
here. But I've had to train myself because if I hear my daughter say, Mum, look at this, like that's she's seeking out attachment from me, and if I can't move my eyes to look at her, and instead I'm just continuing looking at my screen, the message that it sends out is that this phone and this device is more important than you are. And that's what children are growing up around, and then that's what they replicate. Like, we hear about these, children who can be in the same room but they just text each other. Like
Yeah.
people are losing communication is
Yeah.
changing. So
Yeah.
it's
I
it's an
had a
interesting thing
recent
to.
podcast. I had a recent podcast by the Bevers. The John Bever, Lisa Bever. They have four sons. One of their sons, I think, is the oldest, and his wife. They have this podcast, and so they were interviewing their kids, their teenage kids, and these kids were saying, yeah, in the classrooms, or like people can, two teenagers will be walking and chatting instead of talking. I'm like, what? That is crazy. Like, yeah, that's happening. They will be in the same class. They will not talk to each other. They will rather text each other. So I feel like, we are not seeing, I feel like there's a generation. Well, I actually feel like we've seen the effect of screens on like current teenagers to young adults, because we've seen the
Yeah,
increase in depression and the low literacy rates. And I know the first lady Usha Vance is every summer, she started last summer, is trying to bring reading back, because kids are not reading, is it's boring to kids now. They would rather
yeah,
be on their phones, like, and it's just, it's so much. And I'm like, parents, I'm a parent, I have four boys, I clearly see it. I see, like, and we are very, very strict with screens, but I still see, even when they are not playing that game, even when they are not on screens, they are talking about the game. And my
yeah,
home is a home, we've created a space for the kids in our neighborhood to come and play. When the kids come, sometimes when they come and they are playing, sometimes they're still talking about the games and the screens, and so we have to do more. It's like it's taking over everything, and that scares
yeah,
me. That scares me, that the simple things that kids can just enjoy. It's like everything that the most enjoyments they have is screen. Like if it's not a screen, they can't enjoy it. They are losing touch with the deep enjoyment of things. And
yeah,
and for my kids, for example, they get screens, like they get to play games like twice a week. I'm like, fine, summertime during the school year it's just once a week. So they don't get screen time from Monday to Thursday, but on Fridays they can get screen, and Saturdays, but Sundays no. So anyway, I see how much it's almost as if they desire it, they just long for it. It's an overwhelming desire for it, and it scares me. And I'm like, God, we need help, because this is me
yeah,
and their friends. They always tell me, but my friends, their friends are getting it all through the school, week, all day. Like, so I'm like, this is scary, parents. We need to wake up. Please, like, I'm here with Sally because I really care about our children. I don't just care about my children. I wish I could only care about my children and just stay in my corner and deal with this, but I care about your children. I care about the future of our children. Please get involved with Smart Families. Text me wherever you see this, whether on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. I am so sorry. I have children and all our plans got messed up, but I still said I wanted to do this. I was supposed to cancel, but I still wanted to do it. So please excuse me. Um, yeah, you hear what's going on. They'll be fine. But wherever you are hearing me from, whether on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever on WhatsApp, please text me, message me, let me know how you'd want to be connected to Smart Families, or you can just go on their website. It's gonna be in the
Yeah,
description. And please let your school, and you can't do it alone. You cannot do it alone because when you're doing it alone, it's so stressful. But if you can get a team of families, if you can get your school community, your church community to get involved, because even at church, some of our congregants, like our members, their children as young as 4 years old, 6 years old, they have phones. And so it's really challenging for my kids to be like, yeah, but mommy, that 4 year old has a phone. I'm like, yeah, and they are Christians and we are at church. I'm like, yeah, my still doesn't make it right. So it's really, we cannot do this alone. So
we can't. And that's really the cultural shift that we're trying to move. And it's hard. And sometimes it can feel like we're swimming upstream. And like, for example, our children will see other people's children on
oh
devices. And then
gosh.
it's like the unfairness of why do they get this and we don't? And
Oh
really, that's why we lead with this, the education piece, because
yeah.
I mean, people will make decisions and, you know, it's easy to give a child a screen. If they are feeling some difficult emotions or they're saying they're bored, it's very easy to just hand them a screen and it will absolutely occupy their thinking because that's neurologically what it's designed to do. And one of the things that we do when we go and speak to the students and we talk about the way their brains develop is we actually talk about how a lot of these technologies and platforms exploit the way their brains are developing. Like it's not just totally, a surprise that children can like stare, they get the stare where and I'd seen it in my classroom when we'd had devices in our classroom. I would see some of those children that were just so zoned out. And I was like, this is like, what is happening inside their heads that I can't see that's causing this? And we teach them all about, there are two really important parts of the brain in child development. The first part of the brain is called our limbic system, which is found at the sides of our brain in something called our temporal lobes. And this limbic system is the part of our brain that if something looks good, feels good, smells good, tastes good, all your friends are doing it, it looks so good. The limbic system is like the accelerator pedal on a car and it says, do it, like you do it too. And this is why children can, if it feels good, they're going to do it. And that's how a lot of these technologies have been designed is to manipulate the dopamine, which is this often known as the feel good chemical, the reward chemical, which is found within this part of the brain. Um, but also it's a motivator. So when I speak to a lot of our high schoolers, they will tell me, oh, I'm scrolling on TikTok till like 2, 3 a.m. And I'll say, well, how does that make you feel? And they say, terrible. Like they don't feel good. The dopamine is the motivator. It's the survival part of our brain that says, keep doing this because it makes you feel good. I mean, it happens to me all the time. I can come in from work. I say to myself, I'm going to have 5 minutes to scroll on my socials and then I'm going to go make dinner. 5 minutes is 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes. And then my
Hey,
kids are like, we're so hungry. You said you were making dinner. Like all the time, this happens to me. And that is me with my fully developed adult brain who can still fall in this dopamine loop. And so, this part of the brain, this limbic system, is fully developed by age 12. And so, that means that these children who are using devices from a very early young age, this is the part of the brain that they're using. And we have this use it or lose it principle, which means the more that you use and do certain skills, you strengthen those pathways in the brain. So think of a young child, like think of somebody a child learning to ride a bike. So the first time they get on that bike, it's so wibbly wobbly, they're having to do so much thinking about direction, pedals, brakes, all the things like And so they haven't formed the neural pathways to help them be good at that skill. But then the more they practice it, the better they get. And then they get to an age where they can just jump on a bicycle. And even, people who've not ridden a bicycle for years can get on a bicycle and they'll go because, they've got these neural pathways. The same applies for technology. So it takes around 3 to 4 hours of consecutive use of doing something for you to strengthen those pathways. And so if you are learning an instrument, 3 to 4 hours, amazing. But if you're on TikTok for 3 to 4 hours or on YouTube Shorts for 3 to 4 hours, they're the neural pathways that these children are developing. This is what they get good at. They get good at watching YouTube and then they keep wanting to do it. Um, so the other different part of the brain that's relevant, so we've got this limbic system. It's the go, go, go pedal. Like, I want to do things that make me feel good, watch all these videos that have been designed to exploit this dopamine. But then we have a frontal lobe, and this is sometimes called the prefrontal cortex. It's found at the front of our brain. And this is a bit like our brake pedal. It's the part of the brain that says, stop, like, hang on a
Yes.
second. If we do this or we keep doing this, is this healthy? Am I going to get hurt? Am I going to upset somebody because I'm writing something in a group chat that's kind of a little bit mean? This part of the brain helps us to keep healthy and strong. And our go pedal's fully developed at age 12, but our frontal lobe, our brake pedal, isn't fully developed until around 25 years old. And so I still tell my 15-year-old who thinks he knows everything about everything, you have a decade left of
Mhm.
brain development left to
I
go.
love it.
And so
I
for any
love it.
parents listening, what that means is you have to be the frontal lobe for them, and you have to make decisions for them that they might not like. They might push back and resist. They might tell you that you're so mean. Like, can you tell I'm speaking from experience here? Like all of these things. But I have a fully developed brain. I know how to keep them safe. And this two-letter word, no, is so important. If we are not modeling using that word to our children, how do we expect them to be able to say no to risky things in the future if they're
Mhm.
never having that practice? And
Mhm.
so I'm a huge advocate, when we think about the brain science and anybody who's got teenagers, just a quick note about the dopamine. So this dopamine, this neurotransmitter, feel good chemical motivator, teenagers actually produce more dopamine than adult brains, and they're more sensitive to dopamine than adult brains, which means me scrolling on an Instagram page, I'm not going to feel that anywhere near as intensely as a 14-year-old because
Oh.
neurologically, we feel that, we experience that differently. And this dopamine is so powerful, especially in this uh, second window of opportunity between 9 and 14 when our brains are reconfiguring and restructuring. We want to be making sure we're giving good, wholesome experiences, and
Yes.
children are experiencing friction of parents saying no. It's so important. And um, a lot of the time, you touched on how we can't do this alone. Like, it takes a community, and it really just take one parent to stand up and say, "I'm not okay with this. This is we're gonna delay smartphones." And more often than not, I can guarantee more parents will come and say, "I appreciate your boldness. I've been thinking about this, but I thought I was the only one, and now I know I'm not alone. And let's band together and we'll create this community," and we change norms. Like, we can start these new trends. If you're hosting a hangout at your house, just in advance say, you know what, we're a screen free home. If the kids are coming to hang out at my house, I want them to hang out with each other, not be on screens, and just have some of these conversations. Because my having done this for the last few years and all my experience in the classroom, there's a lot of power in parents helping other parents.
Yeah.
And when they realize they're not alone and that there are so many of them, and we all see this, we all see what the technology is doing, we all see what's
Yeah.
happening to our children,
Mhm.
then people are like, we're not okay with this. And that's what we love at Smart Families. We create these communities. We have these parents who like band together in these different grade groups. And really what we're helping parents see, because a big question that I get asked a lot actually is, well, if we're not doing screens, like, what do
What
we
should
do
we do?
instead? Yes. Well, and so my number one thing is you you as parents and family, like, you are what the children crave and need. Like, they, despite what they may say, and adolescence is a turbulent time where neurologically children gravitate more to their peers than their parents. But research studies show that the people that the children need most and want most is their family. Um, Family dinners. If there's just one little thing that, maybe this is a new conversation to anybody listening and you're like, I'm not really ready to tackle the phone piece. I would really encourage you, start doing a phone-free family dinner. That's
Yeah,
it.
yes.
Just
I
choose
like that.
however many times a week where we're gonna put devices away, start having those intentional conversations, and I think very quickly you'll realize the fruit that you get from not being distracted from notifications, and it will change your way of viewing how technology is running. Like, we think that we're using technology, but sometimes the tech is using us. Like,
Yeah.
we just don't know how much that's happening. So these are just little things that we share with parents about simple way. It doesn't have to be complicated.
It
Like, we're,
doesn't have
you know,
to.
we well,
Like sometimes
no.
parents think, like especially as summer, and thank you so much for explaining how it affects the brain. Because for me, like I said, once we, one of your, I can't, I think it was Dr. Crystal Collier. I watched one of her things, and she said that you, the parents, see yourself as your child's frontal lobe until they are 25, and that just gave me so much confidence right there. So thank you for explaining that.
Yes.
And parents, I hope that gives you the confidence to know that, hey, my child is saying all these things, but they have no idea. That part of their brain is not developed, but mine is. That's why I am the parent. And so we have
Yes.
the rights. We are not helpless. Like one of the parents in my church was like, no, I'm gonna call you when they said, I'm like, no, no, don't call me. It's your, because once they come into church, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, give me the screens. No screens in church. Because they are walking and they are walking with the screens to church. I'm like, no, give me. Go play with your friends, right? So it's not saying no to them because the frontal lobe of their brain is not developed. Ours is, and we know what is right. And you get to learn so much more from smart families. You get to know so much more about the brain. And when the children themselves also know it, I think it's really powerful because it helps them to maybe, hopefully, understand better when we say no to screens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to
And
talk.
that's a
Mhm,
oh, I was gonna say that's a big part of why we go and speak to every stakeholder at a
yeah.
school community. That's
Yeah.
why we speak to the teachers and the
Yes.
school nurses and the principals and the parents and the students, so that everybody has got the same messaging. So
Mm,
that this child, no matter who they speak to, knows that they're going to get the same concise message.
I
And it
love it.
isn't their parents by themselves who are now trying to make their life difficult. This is a
Mhm,
whole school community
mhm.
who is learning and educating themselves on some of this very manipulative and coercive technology. And we just want what's best for them. And we don't want tech to steal these incredible moments away. And we hear so many stories of parents who, have been at their child's soccer game or basketball game, and the child has, you know, maybe scored a goal or whatever it is, and they've missed it. And the child looked at them and they've missed that moment. We want to help restore that
Yeah.
connection
Yes.
and within a family, and just to know that, like you said, technology is not going anywhere, screens aren't
Mm-mm.
going anywhere.
Mhm.
The reason this is so complicated right now is because screens are everywhere, and people ask us about screen time quite a lot. Like, what is the amount of screen time? Like, our honest answer is it is so hard to stipulate that now
Mhm.
because screens are everywhere. They're in the
Mhm.
classrooms. People try and differentiate between, um, rec tech, recreational tech or educational tech, but it's really hard. So what we actually talk about is the screens that are in your home and within your family. What
Yeah.
is the quality of the screen use? There's a big difference between, for example, somebody just scrolling mindlessly on YouTube Shorts for an hour compared to maybe a child who's really interested in cooking and they're on YouTube watching certain cooking classes, or they're getting recipe ideas, or, we know some people will watch Bible stories, or,
Mhm.
it's the quality of
Yes.
how they're using a screen, which is really what we want people to think about. And to think is whatever is on the screen, whatever has got my attention, is this worth more than the people around me? And
Mhm.
if it's no, then it's time to kind of, we always say, do a little bit of an audit, do a screen audit in the house. What are the apps that either the children are asking for or they're using? How is it going?
Mhm.
Are you finding any issues with behavior? And I could always tell. My boys are gamers, so they love gaming. It's a very social thing for them. Again,
Yep.
like, I'm not anti-tech
Same.
or anti-gaming.
Mhm.
It's just about balance,
Yes.
intentionality and balance. So they like to game. And it's interesting when I can tell when they've spent, like, sometimes if I've been a little bit more lenient and I've given them more time on something, I can tell now in their behavior, and it's
Yeah.
almost like sometimes they have to, like, detox out of
Yeah.
it, and then eventually I see my sons, like, appearing again,
Yeah.
because it just is very captivating,
And
and
for the brain,
we
not
need
to
to help
not to
them.
take you off, but for the brain, so how many, I know, like you said, you can't really, I don't know, can we tell, okay, how many minutes of, let's say, gaming, typical example, right? So is can you say maybe 1 hour of gaming twice a week is okay, or 2 hours of gaming? Because I mean, I played games growing up. I love games. My brother and I would game each other with Mario, and
Yeah,
but I feel like it was also different then, because we also had more, like, I read more. I wasn't really an outdoor girl. I was just, I loved reading. I still do. But my brother was more outdoors a lot. So even though we had a lot of we're gaming, we also had a lot of other things. And that's the difference between then and now. Because now
yeah,
parents, that's my other question is, parents are like, hey, we're busy. And like, I have to work. We have to make ends meet. We have to work. And even for those staying home with kids, it's like, yeah, I'm exhausted. I need a little time. I need a break. So, how many minutes of screen time would you say, like, maybe for elementary kids? For teens, it's different. But let's say for elementary, middle schoolers, how many hours of gaming or whatever screen, like you said, quality screen time, watching something, learning to cook or whatever, that those are good. But gaming, let's just use gaming as the
yeah.
basis. How many hours is okay in a week?
Well, and so gaming is an interesting area because gaming, like you said, is very different now. There was no Fortnite, there was no, Roblox when
No.
I was growing up. I was on a Sega Mega Drive, like,
Yeah.
playing Mario, just
Mario.
the games of,
Yeah.
yeah, like, so different now. And I mean, my the probably most fair answer I can give is that as parents, it's hard to say because children are so individual, and maybe 1 hour for one child, another child might not cope with that at all, and people might start to see behavior changes. I always advise start low and then build it up, and be looking to see what behavior changes. Do they have any problems getting off the game when they're told to get off the game? Or are they like, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes?
Mhm.
If they
Happening.
struggle to get off the game, that
Mhm.
can be like a little bit of a red flag. Some of these games, take Fortnite, for example. So, like, these games typically are like 20-minute games. They're made that length for a reason, because when the game ends, the dopamine is firing and they want to keep it going, and so it's
Mhm.
really easy to start another short game and
Yeah.
then another short game. And
Mhm.
if you think about reading a book, for example, there's a beginning and a middle and an end. These games don't end. These
Yeah.
games just go on and on. If anybody spent any time in Roblox, and in fact, whilst we're on gaming, I just want to say this, probably gaming is one of the areas typically with boys that I hear most parents talk to me about. They struggle with the gaming. And when I ask them, do you spend time in that digital world with them? Are you in asking what is their avatar? What games are they playing? What are the things that are trending? They're like, yeah, because if you've spent any time in there, our adult brains literally can't cope in these spaces.
Yeah.
It's like the noise, the lights, the sounds. My boys are actually playing Geometry Dash, which is this, like, fun little shape moving thing. And I tried to do it, and it was the noise, the colors, the speed, like my brain was just malfunctioning, but their brains are adapting to be
Yeah.
able to do this.
Mm.
And so when I say to parents, go in Roblox, like go in Minecraft, like sit and play these games with them, and you determine whether you're comfortable with them being in these places. Because there are so many hidden like Roblox got in a lot of trouble because Roblox had these hidden places that children were getting into where these Roblox characters were simulating sexual acts. You know, there are some very, very dark spaces in a lot of these games that go so underneath parents' radars. And so, you know, maybe a child being on Roblox for an hour, but then seeing that content is drastically going to change their behavior if they're being, you know, traumatized because now they've seen something within the Roblox game. So it's hard to say. Start low and parents just be constantly evaluating like, do they step away from the game when they're told to step away? How do they do with the boundaries? Um, what's their behavior like afterwards? You know, if they're struggling to regulate themselves, if they are difficult, you know, can we attribute that to the game? Is that not helping them with their, you know, coming back into the like the real world? So it's
I
hard.
love
And
it.
I
I
mean,
love
I
it.
saw a statistic which I think is on the low side that, you know, adolescents are on the screen average 8.5 hours a day. I mean, and probably I think that's on the lower side that probably because these are often self-reported. And so people
Yeah.
always like nudge it down a
Yeah.
little bit. So, like I say, it's hard really to know explicitly a time anymore. Parents, you just have to make those good observations and pull rein back if you're noticing that it isn't working. Or, you know, like I say, more importantly, if a child asks for a game and they want to download it off an app store, a lot of kiddos who I speak to have screen time on, so they have to ask for permission for
Mm.
the game from their
Mm.
parents' device. I'm like, "Parents, you download it first. You go in the game, have a
Yeah.
look what it is, and determine whether this is something." Because a lot of times, although that nice safety step is there where you ask for the game and the parent might just glance, "Do I recognize the name?" Not a lot of parents are actually going and looking at these gaming platforms and seeing what they are. And
Mm-mm.
when
Mm-mm.
you spend time on them, there's some really disturbing things and some very, very just evil people who will hide things and put things into games, you know,
Oh my
and
God.
children see these things. It's really, really incredibly sad.
And I'm really praying that now that the U.S. Surgeon General, they came out and said that we're having a screen pandemic in the U.S. It's my prayer that because I had someone say that if the big powers, they were able to make the whole world put on mask. They can make the whole world regulate screens if they really want to, but it's because some people are gaining. So it's really my prayer that we would have leaders who would really see this as the pandemic it is, and create some laws or bring some laws. And I know there are other organizations just like Smart Families who are also trying. I know there's um I forget her name right now, but there's a lot of others. Leonora, weird name, kind of name, but she's also doing a lot. But parents will say, and the main thing is, don't just say it's not just about taking the screens away, but it's like apart from allowing them to be bored, yes, but also what are we replacing it with, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Because if you take that's the thing. Most parents are like, I'm busy, I can't entertain them, but it's not about entertaining. I feel like just this morning, our devotion with my kids today was talking about how God says, and this is a Christian show, so we are gonna always go back to the Bible. How God is like, don't have any other gods besides me. And I asked my kids, is there anything that you desire so much more above God? And they were all honest to say yes, games, and then a few other toys that they really want. But it's like in current, this current generation, I feel like the devil is not having us worship stone gods or wooden gods, but now our phones, the technology, the games, right? So our kids are coming home and it's summer break right now. And a lot of parents are like, oh, summer, what are we going to do if not screens, right? But no, first of all, start from a godly perspective. Like, have a spiritual goal for your kids this summer. Like, my kids, they are growing older. So I told them this summer we're going to try to get a bit more into apologetics, helping them to defend their faith, right? But since they were kids, and I'm saying this with all humility, and I want to read this scripture because I believe parents, our heart personally has to start loving God. We've forgotten our first love and we're chasing after all these things. And all these things are important. We need money to pay our mortgages and pay our car bills and all these things. But the Bible, like God is so clear on this that love me first. Because when our love for God supersedes everything else, when our kids, everything we do with our kids will always come back to God. Like before my kids were age 5 years old, I have three kids together every year. So I had a 3-year old, a 4-year old, a 5-year old, all at the same time. And I realized unconsciously that I had taught them over 100 memory verses without realizing it. And a lot of parents would ask me, how do you teach little kids like that? I didn't teach them. It's because I love the Lord. And it's my prayer that when I'm dead, they'll say, oh, as for our mommy, everything was about Jesus. She breathes Jesus, she like everything. Yes. Because when you want to go to bed and they're like, I'm scared of bad dreams. I'm like, what does the Bible say? When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. That's a verse right there. When they wake up in the morning, oh, we just want to not brush our teeth. Hey, what does the Bible say? There is time for everything. Can we just play no? There is time for everything. Okay, breakfast. You're wasting food. What does the Bible say? Gather the pieces that are left over, let nothing be wasted. Throughout the day, oh, I can't do this. What does the Bible say? I can do all things through Christ. So throughout the day, you realize that in just a day, they've learned like 10 verses. And it wasn't conscious. It was
Yeah.
because, so I want to read Deuteronomy 6. We always talk about how Deuteronomy 6, the lower 5 to 9, but the lower part that says, we always talk about how it says, impress them on your children, talk about them when you sit at home. But the verse before that says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And then it says, talk about them with your children when you sit at home with them. So the first thing that I believe is that the love for God for most parents is waning cold, and it's not our fault. The devil is unconsciously making us desire all these other things for our kids that we are not realizing their spiritual. We are not trying to create more connections for them with God, and automatically you will create connections within the family, because when you connect your kids back to God, you've connected them back to yourself. It all goes together. So parents, I really want to encourage you. Please start with God. This summer, if there are some behavioral issues that throughout the school year you saw with your children, go back to the Bible, have a study. You may be busy, but let your children know that, hey, this summer, this is one of the things we're going to do is work on certain behaviors, and we're going to use the Bible. That is our basis. Don't let us just leave it to Sunday school teachers when they go to school just Sunday school just once a week on Sundays. No. And then inexpensive ways. I just want to share, and I'm going to leave a Google Drive link in this video description as well. You can download. I put together 40 free indoor outdoor activities that I tried with my own boys. So many things. It's inexpensive, it's free, but you have to bring your creativity to your family. We put all our creativity to work and try to make our bosses happy. Bring that same energy to your families, right? Some moms who are engineers, I saw their YouTube channels. They brought so much creativity to their four boys, creating all sorts of wonderful. So bring your creativity to your family. What may work for my family may not work for yours, but you know your family. So bring that creativity there. Bicycles, roller skates, trampolines, going on long walks to the parks. And when you are indoors, I mean, the possibilities are endless, but our time, we're running out of time. So I'm not gonna go over all the 40 activities I put together. Smart Families had some on their website as well. They have their YouTube channel. Please go on there. Be so jealous, be so jealous for your children that you don't want the screen to steal their childhood. Be so jealous that you want to create a childhood for them where they look back and they're like, oh my goodness, my childhood was so much fun. It wasn't on screens, but it was me learning about Jesus. It was me doing fun things with my family, with my friends, my neighborhood. You can do it, families. You can do this. So your last word before we
Absolutely.
go, if you could leave parents with just one message as we head into the summer, what would that be?
So for me, just as a concluding message, it would really be parents know that God has given you the authority over your families. And like you just said, like keep God at the center of everything. There are so many things online that try and distract us and take our eyes off God and towards other things. And so in those moments where parents, it's feeling overwhelming, it's the summer, you have kids at home, you don't know, like just know that God gave you the resources by gifting you the family to make these decisions and reach out to other people. Like our website is www.smart-families.org. We've got a summer guide on there. We've got a
Yeah.
family blueprint for the summer, which is where you can go involve your children in some of the decision making, especially over the summer. Sit down with this blueprint, which you can download off our website. It's in the faith tab. It's a faith-based blueprint. It talks about how can we fill our time. If you feel bored, what shall we do? What are we going to pray
Mhm.
upon? What are some family, like faith-based traditions we want to try this summer? So please, we've got
I
so
love
many
it.
resources online to help you. But yeah, through it all, like keep God at the center. And like Proverbs says, guard your hearts, for everything flows
Yes.
from it. So
Yes.
whatever goes in is going to come out, and just keep that at
Mhm.
the forefront of your mind as these children are on screens. God gave us this amazing world around us, his
Yes.
creation, like
Yes.
the science of awe and wonder, the parts of the brain that light up when children are outside in nature. And I'm in Texas. Like it is hot here, but we can
I mean,
still do morning
Texas.
walks. We can still do evening walks. We can
Yeah.
still get outside. I think
Mhm.
sometimes we're so terrified of going out and we'll fill in for whatever reason. No, like go outside in God's creation, even if it's just a walk with the family, or eat your dinner eat your dinner outside one evening, whatever is easy. It doesn't have to be expensive. Just change it up a little bit. So I think that's really what I would share for parents to do, is just that gentle reminder, like God made you, capable and fully resourced for raising your family in what is
Amen.
sometimes a difficult
Mhm.
world. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Sally. This has been so
yes,
wonderful. I wish we could just go on and on, but we can't. We may be back, Sally, if you have the time, maybe towards the end of the school year. I mean, towards the end of summer. Hopefully, I'll reach out and see. But thank you so
yeah,
much for this time together. Would you mind praying for all families out there? And please pray also for the government that the Lord will just enable that, because when some decisions, like they made us wear masks, they can do something, that the
yeah,
government, the Lord will break their hearts, that as they are acknowledging that there's a screen pandemic going on, that the Lord would break their hearts to do more, maybe partner with smart families and do more for people, not just in the United States, but all over the world. And that's the thing. If you don't have to be in the US, if you're outside the US and you're watching this, you can still be a part of Smart Families. Just get on their website and all the information is on there. So please end us with prayer. Thank you so much for joining us.
yes.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you. Dear Lord, just thank you for this opportunity
Mm,
to have this conversation, just between us two here, but also for anybody who's listening and the families who are joining in to be part of this conversation. Lord, we are so grateful for the boldness that we're
mm,
able to have these conversations, because we recognize the preciousness of the families that you have gifted to us. And we want to raise these children to be um, godly men and godly women who are going to just change your world and grow your kingdom.
mm,
Lord, we pray for just a heart of conviction for those in senior positions, whether it's the tech industry, executives, or the government. Help them to just have eyes to see the
mhm,
impact that some of this technology is having on the families, and the ears to just hear the words of those precious families that, Lord, have lost children because of technology use. And
mm.
just help restore your mercy as to us all. Um, we just pray that this conversation continues. We pray for protection over each one of our families with our children. And we're just excited, Lord, that these conversations are going to have a big impact, and everything that we do
Amen.
is all for your glory. We pray this in your holy
Amen.
name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful screen free summer. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.